Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the Constitutional Law Subcommittee of the Full Judiciary to order. My name is Jay Jordan, so it's my privilege to welcome everyone today. Members present so far this morning, we have Chairman Newton, Representative Wetmore, Representative Mitchell. I believe Representative Bamberg is en route. Yeah, 5 minutes. 5 minutes, great. Normally, I would call out the other members of the legislature who are here by name, but we have so many, please forgive me, and we're on a short time, but we welcome other members of the House. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule today. I will recognize and give just a brief opportunity to Representative Rankin, who's with us, and I believe is the primary sponsor of the bill before us. Representative Rankin, in ordinary fashion, course, so to speak, would you like to give us a 30, 60-second overview of the legislation?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. Appreciate everyone being here today, members of the committee. Today's vote on my bill to redraw the congressional districts in H 5683 comes down to a very simple question. Are Republicans willing to use the constitutional authority given to us by the people of South Carolina, or are we going to sit back and allow the political status quo to continue unchecked? For decades, Democrats across the country have perfected the art of gerrymandering districts to protect their power and weaken conservative representation. The people of South Carolina have every right to expect this legislature to review our congressional districts and ensure they are fair, constitutional, and reflective of our state today. This bill is about leadership. It's about having the courage to act instead of backing down because the media, the ACLU, or the radical left might complain about it tomorrow. The people who elected us didn't send us here to be timid. They sent us here to fight for fair representation and ensure the voices of all South Carolina citizens are not ignored. I believe this body has an incredible opportunity to strengthen representation and ensure our congressional districts truly reflect the values and future of South Carolina. Now is the time to lead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I got ahead of myself a little bit. There's a few housekeeping things I do need to go through before we get full into 5683. First, again, let me thank everyone who took time. I thank the members of the body, but let me thank members of the public that took time out of your schedule. It is not without notice that when folks show up and participate in legislation. Having said that, and I'll say this to the members of the subcommittee, the members of the body, and the members of the public up here, I would beg you to please adhere to what is normally the tradition here and the process here in South Carolina, and that is to be respectful and mindful, and that part of what makes us, in my opinion, a wonderful place to, as they say, live and work and raise a family, is that we are capable of treating each other with that kind of respect as we perhaps express different opinions from that well and perhaps from up here today as well. As a reminder, our meeting last week, this subcommittee approved what I previously referred to and others have as guiding principles and criteria to keep in mind that when we talk about redistricting and when we evaluate any potential maps, these guidelines are based on traditional redistricting principles and generally state that any redistricting plan should be in compliance with the federal Constitution, federal law, state law, and the Constitution of South Carolina. In addition, because these are congressional districts, we have to adhere as closely as practicable to the one person, one vote principle, which we are generally able to make with the districts within one person of each other. The districts must also be contiguous, meaning all parts of the district must be connected without any gaps except for by water. Following the Supreme Court's recent decisions, achieving the state's political goals may also be taken into account as a primary consideration in the redistricting process. Districts must be reasonably compact, which is a measure that can be determined mathematically. Redistricting plans may also consider what are called communities of interest, which can take into account various geographic, economic, and governmental factors, including partisan voting behavior. Finally, incumbency should be considered to an extent, but shall not overtake other traditional redistricting principles that I've just listed. And again, just to get us up to speed, members of the subcommittee, we of course gave favorable report to H 5684. That is the procedural bill, which postpones the deadlines for candidates for the U.S. House of Representatives filing and primary. Under the bill, the filing period for those candidates seeking nomination would be between June 8th and June 15th. That is postponed from the March dates, of course. The special primary election for the 7 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives will be held on August 11th, postponed from the original June 9th date, with a special runoff on August 25th of 2020 of this year, should that be necessary. The delay in the primary dates is necessary to allow the General Assembly additional time to evaluate these congressional districts following recent changes in law decided by the Supreme Court of the United States. These delays are based on timelines set forth in the South Carolina statute and are consistent with the extension in the primary election that was done in 1992. However, I'll say however at this point, since our last meeting, my understanding and staff, our House staff council has been working with and in consultation with our South Carolina Election Commission regarding what I would, as I've been briefed, some logistical issues associated with this timeline. And I understand we've had an amendment drafted to potentially deal with it. I do think it would be helpful for the members of the subcommittee as well as the public for our Election Commission director to briefly address us. Director, you're here. Thank you. We got you on the front row today. Come on up. I also want to thank you and Ms. Wooten. I think y'all have been y'all bent over backwards to try and communicate with the legislature to try and identify some of these issues. But I'll give the floor to you to explain to the subcommittee what we're dealing with.
The committee, am I good?
You see green?
Now I see. You're red.
I think me and you return. Yeah.
I quit.
No green. Go,
Green.
go. Green means go.
Green means go. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, for this opportunity to bring information on this bill. In order for the State Election Commission and the county boards of voter registration to properly implement this bill, we have requested changes. Our initial review of the timeline with the special primary schedule for the second Tuesday in August, this puts the state at jeopardy of not being able to meet the federally required deadline of mail out of UOCAVA ballots. It is impossible for us to operate two statewide federal voter registration databases simultaneously. The overlap makes it impossible to accomplish in the earlier time frame of August the 11th. Therefore, we're asking that the special primary date be established on Tuesday, August the 18th, with any potential runoffs taking place on Tuesday, September 1st. This allows the commission and the counties the opportunity to change the voter registration files after we finish with the runoffs of June the 25th. That overlap was really problematic for us. It really created a logjam of issues. Moving this to the later date would allow us to post runoff certification to be able to timely put together a process for making sure that we meet the UOCAVA deadline of a later date, which is, ironically, July 4th of this year. So it's a timeline that we needed to bump things back in order to meet that federal requirement. This would mean that the filing period for the congressional districts should begin on July 1, closing on June 1, and closing on June the 5th. This gives us time to work out the necessary things, and as you know, we've got a primary right around that. In fact, the certification by the political parties of the candidates for the August primary would be no later than noon on I got to get my dates right now. Yeah, noon on June the 9th. Previously, the primaries have been in June, allows us plenty of time to do things, but in requesting these primaries to be held on Tuesday, June the 18th, with runoff on Tuesday, September 1st, just allows us time to meet those federal requirements. This would put the written certification by the political parties of the names of their nominees to be sent to the State Election Commission no later than noon on September the 9th, after that runoff on the 1st. This is a very short deadline for their certification of their candidates and would allow us the opportunity again to meet the UOCAVA deadline for the November general election of September 19th. These timelines are incredibly tight. State and county resources will be stretched, and we will work to meet these extraordinary demands, especially in the election community. Successfully meeting all the necessary deadlines and proper preparation will require strong coordination, collaboration, and partnership among state and county officials. This will be a concerted effort with tremendous teamwork. Consideration must be given to counties to address issues regarding polling locations that may not be available in August, and also the possibility of a shortage of some poll workers due to the unusual nature and the timing of these special elections. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much. I believe we have a couple questions before we get to that, just so I understand. The old dates, we're not going to be able to comply with the federal deadlines. These new dates, tight but doable and in compliance. Is that fair?
That is a very fair statement.
All right. Representative Wetmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to point out that I also do have some questions for the primary sponsor of the legislation at the appropriate time. Thank you so much for being here again. I extend my human understanding that this was certainly not what you were hoping to do the first month or two that you took this new position. And so thank you sincerely for being here.
Thank you.
I want to talk to you about what this process looks like. I'm not probably as familiar as I should be with the acronym that you were using, but I assume when you were referring to the legal deadline, you mean the federal law requiring the mailing of the overseas ballots?
That's exactly correct.
And my understanding, and from your testimony last time we were here on Friday, is that requires those overseas ballots to be sent out 45 days prior to the election. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so I want to talk through the timeline just in sort of lay terms to help the public understand what we're talking about here. So let's say we pass, it's a little confusing. We have the resolution that we took up on Friday to change the primary dates on for full committee in a little bit this afternoon, or excuse me, this morning at 10:30. And so I'm going to speak on both if that's okay. So let's say we move an amended version of the primary dates forward later this morning. And you indicated that the parties would have the opportunity to certify their candidates no later than September 9th. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, no. Okay, all right. So
that's for
I want to
the
talk about the August
postmark.
dates.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sorry, I might be confusing some things here. So Tuesday, August 18th is the new
Okay.
date that we're talking about for the runoff, right? And, excuse me, for the new congressional primary. And then a runoff on Tuesday, September 1st, correct?
That's correct.
So after a runoff election, what is the normal procedure that has to happen for those results to be final? So, or,
We will certify those elections on Friday of that week.
okay.
And then the certification we're asking the political parties in this process to certify their candidates to us no later than that Wednesday.
Which was the 9th. I think
Right.
I did hear that date, right?
9th,
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And so you're correct, and that's a really tight time frame for all involved. But we need that date in order to meet our UOCAVA, our mail-out of federal ballots, on September the 19th.
Okay.
We have to
What
build all the
happens if there's a
databases.
challenge to the results from the 4th? Like what, if somebody files a challenge, what happens? What's the time frame allowed for a challenge?
The statutes allow, and all I can tell you is that these timelines are just so close. It would put, in my country terms, a monkey wrench into just about everything.
What does the statute allow in terms of a challenge?
I'm not, I don't have those dates right here in
Understood.
front of me, but
Understood.
usually it's the following week when the challenge takes place, and hearings are accordingly. We would try to move those hearings as quickly as we can. Again, trying to adhere to that September 9th or maybe even September 11th if we get into a protest. At least give us a fighting chance the following week to prepare for that UOCAVA deadline. That's a federal statute, and we DOJ, Department of Justice, really scrutinizes South Carolina, among other places, a lot on those deadlines, and they review those the day after our deadline.
Are there penalties for failing to meet that deadline?
I don't know what the penalties would be, but I just soon not go there with the federal government, with what they require us to do. We're already in situations where we have a 2-week runoff that they really have disdain for. But so far they want to make sure we're following the proper steps to at least come close to meeting, we have to meet the 45-day deadline.
So best case scenario, you have 10 days in between the party certification of their candidates and a very important federal deadline.
Absolutely.
Worst case scenario, we've got a monkey wrench that creates a situation that we don't know what would happen.
Right, it would probably push that time frame much closer, 4 or 5 days. That means literally that staffing would have to work probably 24 hours a day to meet the deadlines, to build the databases necessary to provide that mail out of federal ballots.
Okay. And I'm respectful of the fact that we have a number of questions and people who want to testify, but so this will be my last question. Can you describe for me what staff has to do between the certification of the party results and the mail out of the federal ballots?
Okay, so each county's database with hundreds of ballot styles, sometimes hundreds per county, would have to be created. It would have to be tested, of course, reviewed by the counties from the state, and then we would correct any problems and retest, and then be prepared to mail out ballots overseas. So it's building these databases, which is specific per county and specific per ballot style, multiple ballot styles per precinct. We have ballot styles for Democratic Party, ballot styles for the Republican Party per precinct. Then we have early voting. Then we have just a myriad of things. And I talked to the Greenville staff yesterday, and they were talking about 400 different ballot styles just for Greenville County.
And so it's safe to say there's a lot of election integrity riding on those 10 days.
Absolutely. We do this to make sure that we conduct elections fairly, properly, without any problems, and with all the security that we can build into the process.
Thank you.
Representative Bamberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, and thank you for your follow-up testimony here today. What I kind of hear from you is this is a bad idea. And I get the position you're in. You're not a partisan person. Your role is executive director of the South Carolina Election Commission, right?
Absolutely.
And the mission statement of the South Carolina Election Commission, as I understand it, says the mission of the State Election Commission is to ensure every eligible citizen has the opportunity to register to vote and participate in fair and impartial elections with the assurance that every vote will count. And you understand that that's the mission statement, right?
Absolutely.
In your opinion as executive director, is what we're doing in line with or contrary to the mission statement of the South Carolina Election Commission?
The presentation that I just made addresses those issues the best we can. This is a best case scenario. The timelines are, as I stated, extremely tight. And, you know, any snafu could set us back or create issues, but our goal and what we will achieve are the fair elections for all the voters to make sure that they are properly assigned to the congressional districts to which the legislature decides.
And again, I don't envy you, as terrible as it is to have to sit up here and participate in this. I don't envy you one bit, okay? And I have no doubt that you and the team will do everything they can to try and make sure that an election goes smooth if we do this. But, and I know it's not comfortable, but I want to know, and I think the people deserve to also know, as the executive director, do you believe that what the South Carolina Republican Party is trying to do in following up Donald Trump with this, is that in line with, or are these actions contrary to the mission statement of the South Carolina Election Commission?
Mr. Bamberg, this timeline that I've outlined, it provides no wiggle room. It is extremely tight. It will be cumbersome to all involved. It's accomplished, it can be accomplished, but in situations like this, you know, we don't know what may happen. We don't know what protests may be filed. Forget the idea of legal suits. We won't. That's over my pay grade. But you know, it's going to be a situation where everybody's going to have to be involved for nothing more than educational process for all parties concerned. All parties concerned, voters, candidates, election officials. We need assistance from county government as well as state government to accomplish this goal. And we are right down to the 9th hour in being able to accomplish this. If there's a delay, then things get much more problematic.
Was there any additional state dollars put in the state budget to run these elections?
No, sir, not that I'm aware.
So you all have to deal with all of this under the same budget that you have to deal with everything else, right? There's no extra money attached.
There's no money attached, but there has to be money involved. We're talking, you know, $2.2 million for the first primary and probably $1 million for the runoff if necessary.
And I think we established last week that that's just at the state level. each of the 46 counties will also have to find funding in their budgets, right?
Some of the funding that we're talking about is a little bit of help to the counties, but the counties will have to bear some extra cost. How much that will be, at this point, I can't answer.
We don't know. And
We
that
don't
is
know.
the definition of irresponsible government in a state that's supposed to be small government and fiscally conservative. I need to be able to tell, being a state representative for one of the most impoverished parts of this state, how am I supposed to tell the people of Bamberg County, hey, you're going to have to pay for this? Oh, and by the way, we don't even know what it costs. Somebody needs to be able to answer that question. And unfortunately, so much has fallen on you and the State Election Commission. How are the citizens in this state, at the State Election Commission level, do we know when counties are finishing their budget for this year? Have they already finished their budgets?
Almost all of them have finished their budgets by now, some of them months ago.
So they all have finished their budgets, which means that all of these citizen tax dollars are accounted for and lined up to be spent. And we don't know how much money of that 2.5 million, 3.5 million, 10 million. Trump's tweeting about that. He needs to tweet that he sent us some money here to help pay for this, in my opinion. But that's just me. Has anybody, how are y'all gonna handle when a county in this state, if they say, hey, we don't have the funds to do it? In that scenario, does the State Election Commission take money out of your operating accounts to send to the counties, or how does that work?
The largest expense in this is poll workers, and paying poll workers and providing for their training and their assignments. That's the biggest significant amount of that money. The rest of it is due to programming and making sure machines are ready and doing the testing and that sort of thing. It will be a team effort, and if a county like yours, Bamberg, has difficulty, we will step in and do everything we can to make sure that they can conduct this election in August, fairly, properly, and efficiently. So it will be a team effort, and we will do everything we can to address the issues in the smaller counties. The smaller counties is where we have the biggest issues. The larger counties, most of them have a little bit more resources available, and they can answer those questions and deal with those issues. But we will reach out to the smaller ones first to make sure that the election itself is conducted without any problems. That's a commitment I can make. I hope I can keep it.
And I have full confidence in you and the people of this state as far as elections go. I do. But where my confidence is lacking right now is I have zero confidence in the process that we're going through. And it is disturbing to me in my attempts to be a responsible leader in this state, a non-political, non-partisan operating legislator, when our executive director of the State Election Commission has to come in front of a committee that's ramming a bill down the throats of everybody, and I have to hear, give us a fighting chance. That is disturbing to me. It should be disturbing to you and to everybody in this state. And partisan politics is failing our people. And thank you so very much for taking my questions.
All right. All right, we're going to use that as an opportunity because we were doing great. And as I said to the group last week, I really do not want to clear the room. That is the last thing I promise you I want to do, and have to bring folks to testify in one at a time. So we're going to try our best, right, to refrain from any outburst, clapping, those kind of things, so we can get to as many folks to speak as possible and be respectful of their point of view. All right. Thank you, sir, for working, again, for y'all working with us so that we could clarify these issues that you presented. I don't believe we have any other questions, but thank you for your testimony. Oh, Chairman Newton, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Director, no questions. Just want to thank you for being here this morning. Appreciate what you do. Appreciate the information you've shared with us. Mr. Jordan, at this time, attendant to the director's testimony, I do have an amendment, if staff will hand it out, or if it hadn't already been handed out to.
I believe the members of the subcommittee have it.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm understanding. And let me just briefly, this amendment adds the procedural bill that we adopted last Friday, H-5684, as revised in accordance with the director's testimony onto H-5683. And the amendment fixes the dates that he just mentioned and requested would be necessary to carry out the election. Specifically, the dates for filing now would be June 1 through June 5. Written certification of the names of all candidates for the 7 congressional seats must be provided to the Election Commission by June 9. The special primary for the 7 congressional seats in the U.S. House of Representatives would be held on August the 18th, with a runoff date September the 1st, and the general election remaining at November 3rd, 26. Additionally, and significantly, the amendment adds language requiring each county board of voter registration and election to post signs and appropriate notice of the process. It also adds language requiring the State Election Commission to issue a refund of any filing fees paid by a candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives who does not again file as a candidate under these changes, and allows any candidate who does file again to not be required to pay a second filing fee. And I move approval of the amendment, Mr. Jordan.
All right, the matter before us is the amendment offered by Chairman Newton. Question from Representative Wetmore.
All right, so just procedurally, we have a lot of moving parts here, and I think it's important that the public understand what's happening right now. What we're doing is taking an amended version of the bill we voted on Friday and attaching it to the resolution dealing with the maps. Is that correct?
Correct.
So now all of the.
Also solving the issues that have been presented to us by
Correct,
the election
taking an
commission.
amended version of what we discussed on Friday, attaching that to the maps such that all of the primary related questions, the dates and the maps, would be consolidated under this new, under 5683 now. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, and thereby assuming we would only be taking up 5683 at full today? Or this would be the operative bill, in other words?
Procedurally, both bills will still be on the agenda, but you are correct in your analysis that this bill would now have merger of both parts, essentially.
And we would expect the dates in this bill to take precedence over the ones we had in the other.
In light of what we've heard, I would definitely think so.
I'm with you. I think it's important that the public understand that
Yep.
they're going to be following 5683 now.
Thank you, Representative Wetmore. Representative Bamberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, so I get that this is going to say that if you have filed to run currently and then you do not refile, the State Election Commission refunds your filing fee, right?
Correct.
All right. If you file to run and you're going to file to run again, even if it's in a different congressional district, you don't have to pay the filing fee.
Now, you've already paid that filing fee.
All right, here's my question, and that's great for the candidates. Is there anything in here that is going to refund the citizens, not corporations, not PACs, not the big boys? Is there anything in here that is going to allow the citizen to be refunded for a campaign donation they made to a candidate expecting them to possibly be their congressional rep, and then that person either isn't able to run or anything like that? Do they get their money back?
So I'm going to answer that, though I probably shouldn't, because I'm not 100% sure, but my guess would be that would be in the discretion of the actual candidate who is responsible for stewarding those funds, should they still have those funds, whether they return them to or not. I think that's outside of our technical
But and it's not the funds that are still in the account that are the problem. It's the millions of dollars that have been spent already in this state. And I don't think that there is a process whereby those people can get their money back, which is really messed up, in my opinion, given the fact that gas is $5-something a gallon and the economy's messed up and things like that. And then my last question, the candidates who put up their own money to try and minimize the financial burden on citizens in this state, is there anything in this that would allow them to get their money back from the state, or is that money just gone?
Same answer, essentially, we're only dealing with what is contained in the legislation. Campaign finance and those things are not contained within the purview of this piece of legislation, is my understanding.
Gotcha. Well, I think that we're gonna get the state sued by a bunch of people, candidates and citizens alike. So I'm gonna vote for the amendment to address the concerns from the state election, the executive director on the dates. That's the only reason why I'm voting for that.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. The matter before us is the Newton Amendment, Amendment 1. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the amendment is adopted. All right. Next, turning to the substance of 5683, this bill contains a new apportionment for the 7 congressional districts in South Carolina. The text of the bill shows which counties, voting districts, census blocks are in a particular district. We will have a visual representation of what this map would look like, and we have the drafter of the map here virtually today to speak to us. Mr. Kincaid, I believe we have you up on the screen. Mr. Kincaid is the Executive Director of the National Republican Redistricting Trust. This map was recently produced following the Supreme Court's decision in Louisiana versus Calais and achieves the state's political goal of maximizing the state's ability to elect Republican Congress folks from each of the 7 congressional districts. Mr. Kincaid, let me first thank you for making time, and let me apologize. I know we were trying to get to you sooner, went a little longer this morning than anticipated with some other issues. I know you're on a very compressed timeline, number one, so again, let me thank you, and let me go ahead and get to you as quick as I can, because like I said, I know from what you've expressed, time is short, so give us your best information for us. Thank you, sir.
Sure, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Let me walk through a couple different things with the map, and I get a lot of questions about these things, so I'll just go through it one at a time. So first off, as far as what data is and is not used to draw these maps, we only use political data from start to finish, that and population numbers, total population numbers from the Census Bureau. There's no racial data considered. We've actually pulled all racial data out of our redistricting databases. So those are no longer even accessible to map drawers, even if they wanted them to be accessible. As far as overall principles with the map itself, what I went through and tried to accomplish is a map for South Carolina that would elect 7 Republicans. I know there's a lot of maps online kind of floating around that people see, and what I wanted to avoid was a lot of stripes kind of moving across the state from the northwest quarter down through the middle of the state. And so for the most part, we were able to avoid that. The other thing I wanted to do is try to cut down on the number of counties that were split and also improve the overall compactness of the map. And so what you'll find with this map as you work through it is that the compactness scores for this map are going to be higher than the current map in South Carolina. The other thing you're going to find, I believe, is that the county splits are lower than they currently are with the current draw. And the other thing it does is politically, it does create 7 Republican districts. And I know that there's been some concern that, somehow some of these districts are more competitive or whatever else, and I will agree that the new 6th district is certainly more competitive than any district that currently exists in the state of South Carolina. that sixth district would score the Cook PVI at an R+5 to see that President Trump would have carried by 10 points. And I think, overall that would be competitive in the context of South Carolina. But as far as the other seats go, just to walk through those real quick, what you'll see, and I'll just use the Cook PVI as the top point. And what the Cook PVI is it's called a partisan voting index. And what that does is it compares the performance of a congressional district or any other political geography to the overall political performance of the country. And so when I say something is an R+7, that would mean that a district performs 7 points more Republican than the national popular vote. And so the first and the second districts, as well as the fourth and fifth districts, they all maintain the current PVI. So 1 and 2 are currently R+7 districts, and they stay R+7 districts in the new draw. The fourth and fifth districts are currently R+11 districts, and they stay R+11 districts. So 4 of the districts in the state don't change their partisanship at all. The third district, currently tucked into the northwest corner of the state, it's a very Republican district. It scores at, I believe, an R+21. This new draw would take it down from an R+21 down to an R+11. So it would score exactly the same as 4 and 5. Still a solidly Republican seat. And then the seventh district is the other Republican district that takes a little bit of a haircut. It goes down to an R+8. But again, still more Republican than the first and second districts and still trending in the right direction. And then the sixth, obviously the sixth goes from what I believe is a D+13 to an R+5. So, a Republican district, not a slam dunk, but definitely a Republican district. I think some people have expressed concerns that maybe this is a dummy bander or something else. What I would argue is that if the first and the second are competitive in the new map, they would be competitive in the current map because the political scores are exactly the same. The sixth would just simply be a more competitive Republican trending seat compared to the current sixth district. As far as, other things to consider with this map, I think that, given the overall compactness and everything else and trying to accomplish, keeping 6 good Republican seats and then a competitive 6th district, this accomplishes that goal. From a political perspective, you do get 7 Republican seats in this map. If you were trying to be more aggressive and maybe make the 6th district even more Republican, that has to come from somewhere. And then you are going to create a lot more vulnerable seats that would be pick up opportunities for Democrats. And that's not what the objective here would be, obviously. I think other things I'll just note real quick on this map. You'll see that a lot of it is tied into various regions of the state, whether it be the Low Country. The first is very much a Low Country seat. 7th is coastal. The 6th is primarily a PD district. And I think for the 7th and the 7th district under this new proposed draw, I almost renumbered it the 1st district when I was working on this because this version of the 7th district is very similar to how the 1st district had been drawn before South Carolina gained a 7th seat after the 2010 census. So that district at the time had gone from Horry County down through Georgetown, but Georgetown was split at the time, and then into Charleston, picked up similar areas of Charleston in that draw. So that's kind of an outline of the map, some of the basic principles that I was going through while trying to create this, and also taking into consideration various, requests that I had dealt with in the past from the Republican members of Congress when working with them, whether in 2011 or in 2021.
Mr. Kincaid, a couple things real quick. In listening to you, it sounds like you're pretty familiar with the state of South Carolina. What was you previously looked at this state as far as redistricting goes? Is that fair? That's what I'm gathering.
Yes, yeah. I worked with the South Carolina congressional delegation during the 2011 and 2012 redistricting cycle. Worked with them very closely. All 6 members at the time. Congressman Clyburn gave feedback via Republican members of Congress at the time. And then also in 2021 and 2022, I also met with the Republican members of Congress in developing their proposal for that redraw.
So in looking at the state, again, familiar with the state, and looking at South Carolina from a political perspective, in your opinion, is this the most Republican version, I guess, of South Carolina that you can think of, I guess, is a fair way to put it?
I mean, there's a theoretical world where you could make every single seat about an R+9, which I think is the PVI score for the state. But taking into consideration, incumbent interests, incumbent residences, geographical issues, county, county splits and compactness and everything else, I think this is a very solid 7-0 potential for a 7-0 map for South Carolina, yes.
All right, Mr. Kincaid, I know we've got to be close on time, so I want to thank you for making yourself available. I know you've been in communication with staff, and I want to thank you for being available for us, and wish you the best. We have a couple questions.
I've got like a 10 o'clock hard stop, just so y'all are aware. So I got to jump here pretty quick.
All right. So I see on the clock that's less than 3 minutes. I don't know that we can get a question out in less than 3 minutes, Representative.
I have a motion. I would move that we adjourn this meeting until he is available and can give the people of this state the time that they deserve to get. Instead of coming on here and logging off at 10 o'clock, he should be at this podium, not on the computer.
Well, in fairness, Mr. Bamberg, he was here at 9 o'clock, and, it was not, I don't believe anything is intentional about his, he's made himself available in working with staff to do this. This has been, but having said that,
I would move we adjourn and then we reconvene this meeting when he has full time to take questions from members
all
of
right,
the committee.
so we have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. I count 2. All those opposed? No. No, that's 3. So we're still in the meeting. All right, 9:59. Have a great day. Mr. Kincaid, thanks for being available to the degree you were able to.
All right, thanks, Sharon.
All right. All right, that puts us on public testimony, ladies and gentlemen. We've had several folks sign up. However, we have our Lieutenant Governor and our Attorney General that are, Lieutenant Governor, you must have gotten here really early to get that seat and your name first on the list. So come on up. We'll welcome you and recognize you to address the subcommittee.
All right, I think we got it. Green is go. Chairman, ranking members, distinguished committee, I come before you this morning with a clear and urgent message. South Carolina must immediately redraw our congressional districts by any means necessary to produce fair, constitutional maps and honor the will of South Carolina voters and put America first. For far too long, Democrats and their activist allies have abused the courts to impose racial gerrymandering and cling to the power they could not win at the ballot box. The era has ended. The Supreme Court has shut down these unconstitutional power grabs, and it is now time for Republican states to act. President Trump has made his expectations unmistakable. There is no more time for hesitation or half measures. South Carolina must move with speed and determination to draw maps rooted in the Constitution, not on identity politics or left-wing social engineering. We have both the duty and the opportunity to maximize our conservative stronghold and ensure our people receive the representation they deserve, grounded in faith, freedom, family values, safe communities, and economic prosperity. This fight is a straightforward, fair election versus Democrat manipulation. It is the same battle President Trump has led from the beginning. No more delays, no more excuses, no more indifference to activist courts. We must finish this redistricting work now by any means necessary. The integrity of our elections and the future of our state demands nothing less. I look forward to continuing our work, to getting this done, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
We have Lieutenant Governor, I don't know what your schedule is. We do have some questions from the subcommittee, but that's, the practical process here, I leave that up to the person testifying if they choose to take questions or not. So, having said
Absolutely.
that, Representative Wetmore.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Representative.
I'm struck by your comments that now is the time for us to act to redraw unconstitutional maps. Can you share with me your thoughts on this in more detail?
So with the Supreme Court's ruling coming down, the governor made a very clear statement to look at our maps, make sure they were not in any ways unconstitutional and falls with the new rules of the Supreme Court. That's what this subcommittee is here to do. That's what I'm urging us to do. Take a look at these maps, make sure that there was no racial gerrymandering involved in them, and come to clear maps for the state of South Carolina for its people.
Are you suggesting that the members of this committee who testified under oath that our current maps were not using race somehow were mistaken?
I'm saying that we should follow, let's go through the clear process, let's make sure it's not done, let's make sure all the people of South Carolina feel that that's true, Representative. I mean, I have a different vantage point than representatives who handle one district. I circle the entire state. Since this has come up, there is not one place that I've stopped in South Carolina that people haven't stopped and said, we need to continue with this process. We need to make sure that people who are voting believe that their vote counts.
Would you consider prohibiting members of this committee from asking the drawer of the map questions about the map to be a clear process?
Say that again?
Would you consider, you were here just a second ago, when members of this committee were prohibited from asking questions of the gentleman who drew the map, would you consider that to be part of a clear process?
Well, I think Representative Jordan said it the best. That wasn't the problem of the person that was sitting here. This ran over and he had a clear stop. Now, I don't know what conversations were had in between, but I would assume he would be available for any questions that would want to be passed to him and then given to the committee.
Sure, and I'm not criticizing the gentleman's schedule. I'm simply saying that this committee's refusal to come back at a time when he is available, would you consider that to be part of a clear process?
Well, I think time is at the essence. We've heard from our election commission, drawing this out would just make it harder and harder to fall within the guidelines of what the election commission needs to do to make this fair. And I think he said it very well, is that we can do this fair. We can make sure all votes are counted. We can make sure everybody has a voice if we can have this process done in a timely manner.
Everybody
So
but me should
drawing
have
it
a
out
voice.
and drawing it out would just create further conflicts.
So everybody but the Democratic members of this committee should have a voice.
No, again, you should have a voice. You should talk to them. You should get your questions answered. I'm sure you could get it out to your constituents. I'm sure, that, we have the press here. They'd be happy to talk about any questions you would give to him and actually put out his responses back.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, we've spoken with Mr. Kincaid. He is willing to take questions. We can set you up with email. I don't think we agree on the technical use of the word prohibition quite the same, in that I can't keep someone from, plugged in and answering questions. I understand. All right, Representative Bamberg has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How many years have you been the lieutenant governor in South Carolina?
This is my 8th year.
Your 8th year.
Yes.
So you were lieutenant governor the last time we went through redistricting? Mm-hmm. Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you remember how many Democrats served in the House of Representatives?
I do not.
When we redistrict? About
do not.
about 30-something.
Okay.
And that would mean that, how many members serve in the in the House total?
Oh, 140, I don't know.
No,
off the top of my head.
124.
There you go.
124, okay?
124.
So out of 124, 30-something Democrats, that would mean that there's almost a supermajority of Republicans, right, in the House?
Yes, we have a supermajority.
All right. And I understand the politics, but there are a lot of people in this state, both Democrat and Republican, both black and white, who think that this is a much bigger deal than nonsense partisan politics, and I am one of them. So that is where I'm coming from with my questions, okay?
I respect that.
The left-wing social engineering and Democrat manipulation talk. Now, you were lieutenant governor in 2020. We've established that. We've established there were only 30-something Dems, and the balance of the body was the Republicans, almost a supermajority. You do understand, as lieutenant governor, do you not, that the Democrats didn't draw the congressional map. Your own party did. Do you understand that? Yes?
Yes, I do.
All right. So how is it Democrat manipulation or left-wing social engineering if your own party drew the map that the president and everybody is complaining about?
What I would tell you, Representative, is that I hear from people in all districts. We talk all the time about why we have such a low turnout of voting, and I can tell you what those constituents say. Those are your constituents, those are other representatives' constituents. They're saying, one, I either don't go out and vote because I don't think my vote counts. Either one, I don't need to vote because this district maybe is so far, it's a plus R to the sense that I can go on vacation and not think about it. You can go to other districts where they say, you know what, I don't go out and vote because my vote doesn't matter because it is too far to the other way. And there won't be enough Republicans to come out and vote. And what I'm saying is that the ruling from the Supreme Court says, let's make it fair. Let's make it so every constituent feels like their vote matters. If their vote matters, then they'll be incentivized to get out and vote, no matter what their district is. And that should make you happy as much as it makes everybody happy, is that you, because you had testified earlier that you wanted everybody to exercise their right to vote. You wanted everybody to feel like their voice was heard and their vote was counted. And I think that's what this exactly does. I think perception is reality, and if somebody perceives something, then that is how they're going to act. And this makes everybody feel much better.
What makes me happy, what makes me happy is politicians not lying for politics. That's the first thing that makes me happy. The second thing that makes me happy is realness. And this entire process is the opposite of realness. And I appreciate that speech, but it didn't answer my question at all, respectfully. The Supreme Court dealt with Louisiana. This is not Louisiana, right? We can agree on that.
We can.
There was a court challenge to our current map, correct?
Yes.
And in that court challenge, the people attacking the map said it's unconstitutional because it was racially gerrymandered. That was the argument, right?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. Yes.
So citizens argued that the map was racially gerrymandered. And then the court said, no, it wasn't. It was effectively hyper-partisan. Do you understand that to be the ruling of the court for this state?
Yes.
Okay, so you'd agree that that's different than Louisiana, right?
Well, yes, there are two different
okay.
court cases.
Two different court cases. So it is very disingenuous, would you not agree, for us to continue judging this state based on the actions, the facts, and the court rulings from a whole nother state that we ain't got nothing to do with.
Well, Representative, what I would say is you're asking me, when I was sitting in office, I had no vote in the redistricting, right?
Did
The
you-
lieutenant governor doesn't vote in the districts, correct?
They don't,
So
but just like you're here testifying today, you could have come and testified and you didn't. And I know you didn't because I was on the committee.
Yeah, I did not.
Okay, so what
But-
is it now then that leads you to come and testify this time as though the map we have is a problem when you were the sitting lieutenant governor and didn't come testify in front of us the last time? Is it just fair to say that you were okay with the map until Donald Trump told you not to be?
Donald Trump did not tell me not to be okay with the map.
So
What I'm saying is I think that we should look at these maps. The constituents, my constituents, which is statewide, has been reaching out in overwhelming numbers, and I believe we should do the will of our people.
do you
and
want to
that
do
is
the
what
will
they're
of-
asking.
Do you want to do the will of all people in this state or just some people in this state?
No, I want to do the will of all people.
Then, and I understand you saying that, okay? I live in Bamberg, and I also represent part of Orangeburg County. Them students at South Carolina State who had a problem with, this is why. This is why. Successful business and all of that is great. But you literally went and called some of these same constituents you're talking about that deserve to have a voice and that we have to do the will of, and you called them a woke mob and all
Representative
this other
Bamberg,
stuff.
Representative Bamberg, I'm not cutting you off, but let me, two things. I'd encourage you to keep it on topic, meaning election,
I understand.
congressional district questions for purposes of today. And secondly, again, not cutting you off, I'm about to hand it back to you if you have additional questions, but I would remind everyone, we have several folks from the
I'm
public.
gonna wrap it up. I
Yes, sir.
understand. And I
Representative Bamberg.
apologize to the committee and for those of you who want to testify, I apologize. Thank you for testifying and thank you for sitting there and taking my questions. Again, I know it's not comfortable. I do appreciate your participation in the process. I would just ask you, not just as a member of this committee, but as a citizen in this state, please help me be part of the solution to the political division, to the racial division, and not just be an echoing chamber for national level politics that has gas at $6 a gallon, that has our farmers begging the state for money because they're about to go under, and the people who want income tax cut. I know you called for that, and
Absolutely.
I appreciate you backing me up because it was a radical left Democrat that filed the bill to eliminate the state income tax in that state, and that was me. So I appreciate your support on that. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, Representative Bamberg, thank you so much for your questions, and we can take this sidebar and I will show you some of the vile text messages that I received after that incident, but something I would never share in a committee and I would never put on social media because I would never want my children or your children or anybody else's children to read them. But I thank you, and thank you for supporting our farmers, because I have traveled all 46 counties, sat down with our farmers, heard their concerns, and I will definitely have their back in the coming years. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. I believe we have our Attorney General with us this morning. General Wilson, welcome.
Good member. Good day, members of the committee. Thank you
Floor is
so much
yours.
for having me here. Are you ready?
Floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I want to thank all of you. I'm looking up here at everyone sitting up here at the table. Every single one of you, regardless of your party affiliation, is someone I personally like, people I personally respect, people I enjoy working with, and while there are times when we disagree, I have found that there are times when we vehemently disagree, but probably today while I'm testifying, there are times that we agree. And what I love about many of you on this committee, including probably some of the people sitting behind me here today who have a different position than I do, is that while we vehemently disagree and we debate and argue, there are other times when we can set aside our differences and focus on issues that we do agree on that help and advance the state of South Carolina. Unfortunately, this is a political process. what we're doing right here today. It is legislative. There is a legal component to it, but it is also a political process. I'm here today testifying as the Attorney General, and as I look at the legal climate that has led to this point, I look at the Supreme Court jurisprudence of the Rucho case from 2019 that struck down the premise that racial redistricting is an anathema to our constitutional system of government. I also look at the Alexander case from 2022, 2023, which is a follow-over from the 2021 redistricting of CD1, which is the Low Country Congressional District, which we participated into the U.S. Supreme Court that allowed for that district to be redistricted based along partisan lines, which was later reaffirmed this past month in the Louisiana v. Clay case in the U.S. Supreme Court, of which I was an amici state participant on. I have always disagreed with the view that we should base anything on racial lines, but partisan lines are a very different thing. When you look at New England, there are 33 members of Congress in New England. 12 of those are U.S. senators because there are 6 states. One out of the 12 senators is a Republican. 21 out of the members of Congress, out of the 6 New England states, are all Democrat. There is not one single Republican of the 21 members of the New England delegation from those 6 states serving as Republicans. Those lines were drawn along partisan lines, not to my party's benefit, but 40%, thereabouts 40% of the voters in New England are either registered Republicans or identify as Republicans, but they don't have one single member representing them in that entire 6-state region of the country. I don't like it, but that is what those legislatures have chosen to do to reflect the political will of the people they represent. And so I'm here today to ask you to take up this process. I know it's not easy, I know it's cumbersome, and I know as you all ask thoughtful questions, and I know that many people back here are going to come up here and comment in a moment, which is why I'm going to be very brief, and then I'll take whatever questions you have. But I want to thank you for taking this up. I want to thank you for considering it. I would encourage you to pass this map so that we can get along with the process of debating it. But I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity of getting in this morning, and I look forward to taking your questions.
Representative Wetmore.
Thank you, and thank you, General Wilson, for being here today.
Thank you, Representative.
Can you tell me, I don't want to even say if, when the litigation begins surrounding these maps, what role does the Attorney General's office stand in with the Election Commission? What role will your office? It's not a trick. I genuinely want to know.
No,
what
it's a
role
fair
your office
question.
will play.
My assumption is that the legislature would be sued. Obviously, if the state is sued, we would be a party to that case. We could also support that lawsuit as an amicus. It just depends on how the lawsuit is filed. But if the legislature is sued, the legislature could ask us to support them. The legislature could hire their own attorneys. We could intervene as a defendant, or the state could be sued and we would be a named defendant.
And was the Attorney General's office involved during the litigation surrounding the 2021?
As an amicus.
Just as
yes.
amicus, okay.
Correct.
You said that, I'm sorry. All right, that's all I have. I don't want to defer to Representative Bamberg. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Representative Bamberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attorney General Wilson, thank you for coming today and sharing your opinion. I really just wanted the mic to tell you I like your tie.
My wife picked it out. Thank you.
I think I did enough eating of the person who had the podium before you. So I appreciate you stating your position. Mm-hmm. And I disagree, obviously, with the maps. I disagree. Let me ask you this. I do have one question. In terms of sanctity of the process, right? Can you agree with me that this is probably not the best manner in which to address the end goal? It's not ideal. Is that fair to say?
If I may answer that question by stating this, as a person who's been 30 years in the military, I've studied war, and sometimes you don't pick the battlefield, it picks you. Sometimes you don't pick your time, it picks you. There are times that are more ideal. There are times that are less ideal. That doesn't mean that the battle or the discussion, I don't want to call this a battle because I don't consider you my enemies. I consider you people with different points of view. But sometimes the timing picks us and we must negotiate that. So it is, while it may not be the most ideal time, it doesn't mean it's not proper to take this up and it's not proper to move forward with it.
And that was the thing, that this is not this is not the most ideal way to do this, right? You were Attorney General when we redistricted the last time,
Yes, sir,
right?
I was.
Do you know how long that process took?
I mean, the redistricting probably took, I don't know, probably within the first few months after the 2020 election cycle, and then probably within the first year, they submitted the new maps.
So there were, like, as committee members, we had to travel the state and we had all these public meetings, right? Did you see any of that back then? Or?
I was not part of the public comment meetings that were had. I wasn't part of that process, so I can't speak to it.
Okay. Well, it was a months-long process, a billion man-hours during the redistricting process. So I think it is very, not calling it ideal is an understatement. This is a terrible way to expedite the process of drawing maps as serious as congressional maps. But I do appreciate you coming as Attorney General for the state to testify before the committee. Thank you very much.
And Representative Bamberg, you and I have been on the opposite of a lot of issues, or opposite positions, but we've been on the same side. I love it when we're on the same side of an issue because we're able to get a lot done. And I truly appreciate your comment. And to the people who are sitting behind me, I know there's a lot of disagreement, probably a lot of frustration and anger, but I do think this is a cause worth taking up from my perspective. I know that others disagree with me, and I respect that. But I do appreciate this committee allowing me the opportunity to at least put my point of view out there as you deliberate and debate and hear from so many other citizens in our state. But thank you for taking this up, and I hope that you pass this map. Thank you.
Thank you for your attendance today, General.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, couple things, members of the subcommittee. We have several folks lined up to speak. Before we get to that, couple things. In talking to staff, if members of the subcommittee have any questions for Mr. Kincaid from the National Republican Redistricting Trust, get those questions to staff, and we will make sure they get to Mr. Kincaid to be addressed. Also, again, we have several folks lined up to speak. We've been going for an extended period of time. I'm going to propose maybe a 3 to 5 minute at the very most break, and then we will huddle back up again no later than 10:30. All right, with that, we're in recess till 10:30 at the latest. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. 10:31, only a minute late. All right. Several folks signed up to speak. Also, before we get to that, I'll tell everyone in the audience, as we've already received, I think, over 350 submissions. In the event you find it appropriate, we can get you with, what's the email address? Let me give you the email address real quick. Again, many folks have already taken advantage of this, but in the event you have written comments that you'd like to submit to be part of the record for our consideration, that is HJUD, J-U-D, and then constitutional laws. So HJUD, Gov. I would encourage anyone with written comments to submit that via the email address so that we can, again, review those and have them be part of the record. Again, several folks signed up to speak. I'll call you up one at a time. Would ask you, as I did the other day, if you could make your comments in the 3-minute neighborhood. Again, I'm not gonna put a big countdown on the screens at this point. Just ask you to be mindful of that. And with that, Sean Griffin. Mr. Griffin, there should be a green light.
Yes, there's a green light.
All right, thank you very much. You're recognized to speak to the subcommittee.
Okay. I am a resident and citizen of Spartanburg County. The Spartanburg County, before this redistricting map, was in District 4. You know, the people voted for Tom Tillis or whatever. But with the new map, we will be voting for an incumbent that Spartanburg County, for the most part, never voted for. You know, the Ralph Norman, we didn't vote for him. The way that the map is drawn, it's basically kind of split, you know, the 5th district will kind of split Spartanburg County in half, in a sense. You know, the way it looks, you know, there's a little bit, you know, on the current map that, you know, the little top corner that's, you know, the 5th district, but now it's kind of bisecting. You know, before, the 4th district was mostly Spartanburg County and Greenville County and a few pieces of others. Now it's going to be kind of more split up. You know, they're splitting up our community. I've also worked as a poll manager, and, you know, the Spartanburg voter registration, you know, they're already ready for the elections to come. They don't need more work, more money, more trouble with logistics just for a partisan effort to make it less competitive for other districts. I find it kind of troubling the scramble in such a quick time to try to get like Clyburn out. You know, to me, I find that this is a very, very biased process that intentionally or not, quote unquote, will racially disenfranchise people. And, you know, as someone that has worked as an election worker, and I don't, you know, envy the other people that volunteer and work for election, this is going to make it a lot harder. It's going to cost Spartanburg County more money because we'll have to do more elections, you know, and there's already, like, I think people that have already received their mail-in ballots. You know, I haven't researched Ralph Norman or his challengers. I think that this is just a way to confuse voters, and I'm frankly, I don't know. I think that the ACLU is right to be against this. They stand for people's civil liberties, and this map is just another step in disenfranchising people. We used to have, fusion voting. I remember on one of the Republican thing, there was a question that was trying to suss out to see if people wanted to make closed primaries and, instead of open primaries. There's just a gradual process of closing representation to portions of the population, just to make this, a Republican stronghold. I find, that we're doing this on the behalf of a president to be disturbing. We should be doing districting for the citizens of South Carolina, not for some president if they were Republican or Democrat. I don't think this is in the state's best interest, and it's going to make it logistically harder. We wouldn't have this logistic problem. We already had the election set up. You're having to extend the deadlines, make it closer deadlines, because if you had the current deadlines and you tried to redistrict, you would be in danger of violating, the federal law and other stuff, So you yourself that, you're making an incumbent process on the voters, on the election workers, on people in the county. I think that's all I have to say, but.
Nika Dunlop Thompson.
Greetings to Chair, committee members, and to my representatives. I am Evangelist Nichelle Dunlap Thompson, Chair of South Carolina Jobs with Justice. My name is not written in your history books, but my blood is in the soil of South Carolina. I stand here today before you as a Black woman that is born from the prayers of freedom fighters and the bruises of a people who have already paid too much. You all are right now trying to implement a system that is going to cost too much. I come before you to speak against this redistricting, which is again another polished piece of paper carrying the same old poison America has tried to feed Black people since Reconstruction. You call it redistricting. My ancestors call it stealing. We have a house here full of your constituents that are appealing to each of you to stand down. The questions that was asked before the lieutenant governor was not answered. The young man that gave the presentation of the mapping process did not have enough time. If you look at all of these elements and factors, this universe, the people, your voters are telling you to stand down. At the end of this, what side will your name be written on? The voters here will not be represented. Their voice will not have the value that it would have if you all go through with this process. Those representatives that you all are trying to move out has done their groundwork, has followed your bylaws, the Constitution that was placed. How are we to win a game if you keep changing the rules mid-air? The only difference is this is not a game. This is our lives. This is our children's lives. This is our grandchildren's lives, our unborn children's lives and grandchildren's lives. We want protections and representation for our children just like you want for yours. This is going to cause an uproar that you all are not quite ready for. I appeal to you as a woman of God. where the word justice is referenced in the Bible over 2,000 times. If we're going to operate under the word of God, which is what you all proceed to say, then let's not forget that justice is represented 2,000 times in that word. Stand on the word and get out of your own will. I yield.
Maurice Goulding. Did I say that correctly?
Correctly enough, Goulding. It's actually Golding.
Golding.
It's Irish.
I apologize.
Everyone thinks it's Jewish. I'm fine with that too.
And while I'm apologizing, where's the previous list? I apologize. I got the first name wrong of Miss Dunlop Thompson as well. So I'm doing my best with getting everybody correctly. You're recognized. Glad to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Maurice Goulding. I'm a resident of Greenville. Have been for only 2 years now, but my wife is born and raised here, as are her sisters, her nephews, and her mother. I first want to tell you that I'm not a Democrat. I think Bill Clinton is a sexual predator, and I think he set us up for the downfall, the economic downfall in 2008. And I think that Obama illegally assassinated 2 U.S. citizens on foreign soil without due process. One of them was 16 years old, and then he didn't bail out the banks, which he should have done, which would have helped us all. Because if you control the banks, you control the currency. Most people don't understand how currency comes into existence. I won't go down that hole, but please look it up and find out that it's not printed. It's manufactured through loans and banks. We have fiat currency. Please look these things up if you don't know what they are. The reason why I'm saying this is because I don't want you to think that because I'm testifying against this bill that it's a partisan reason. One of the beautifully stated woman here, talked about changing the rules last second, and it is last second. And speaking to what the commissioner was saying, or the director of the election commission was saying, you didn't hear it because he said he could do it. But from an operations standpoint, he's telling you he can't. I came up in operations. I've had 80 plus people under me. I've been vice president of operations at a logistics company in Chicago that transloaded 12 rail cars and over 100 trucks a day. I've had over 85 guys under me as a project manager for a big masonry outfit in Chicago. I've been a plant manager. I've been a quality engineer at Ford. And I'm telling you, when somebody's telling you that they need to work 24/7 to get something done, it can't be done. You can only, from a manufacturing standpoint, you can't push your resources past 85%. You push them past 85%, you try getting up to 90%, you're looking at constant fails. And that's what we have in our car manufacturing. When I was at Ford in 2015, we were averaging something like 26 defects per car coming off the line. So believe me when I tell you that this cannot be done. So if you really want to do it, you're going to have to postpone it. Otherwise, you're looking at willfully ignoring votes that should count. Past that, I want to leave you with this. Taxation without representation. If this were a blue state and the blue state was talking about gerrymandering some red votes out or red representation, I'd be up here saying the same thing. It's not right. And if you think the people want it, then have a referendum. And then going again back to taxation without representation, it's not in our Constitution, but it's what we were partially founded on. It's what we had a war over. We're living in a world that's increasingly divisive, and I hate it. I love people. I have friends who are on both sides of the aisle, and they're welcome over to my house anytime for dinner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Bethany, you're moving in the right direction. Help me with your last name. How do you say your last name?
Good morning. My name is Bethany Storlazzi.
Storlazzi. All right. Thank you. You're recognized.
Thank you. For the record, I feel very insulted that the representative is not here. Representative Rankin was here earlier. He's not here to hear our testimony. Okay. Well, I came here to ask him where the $2.4 million was going to come from. There is a bridge on Two Notch Road that has been under construction for about 2 years, and it's being held together by duct tape and dreams. And that bridge could be fixed. A lot of infrastructure could be fixed. So why are we using that money for something that doesn't need to happen? Where is that money going to come from? That is my tax dollars. I demand better fiscal responsibility with my tax dollars, and I hope that you ask him to watch the rerun.
Mr. Chairman, perfect, thank you. Greetings to the committee and to everybody present. I am a resident of Camden, so special hat tip to Representative Newton. Glad you're here. I heard the comments and the concerns about fairness in our electoral maps, and I fully share them. I was going to remind the representative, had he stayed to hear our comments, about the existence of something called Project Red Map, which has been going on for the last 20 years or so. So the vice, and I call it a vice, of partisan gerrymandering has been practiced on both sides of the aisle. Let's be real here. This is a partisan gerrymandering, and it's not me who's saying it, right? We heard it fully, explicitly, in granular detail from the architect of this map. This is a partisan map. It's not about fairness. Now, it is absolutely true, as I'm sure the legislators present all know, that that is permissible under our Constitution. The Supreme Court has ruled on this. I'm telling you, as a citizen of this nation and of this state, that I do not care. It remains. Partisan gerrymandering is a cancer on the American body politic. Yeah, what is it doing? First of all, it's an affront to the principle of one person, one vote, right? That's clear on the face of it. Then, in effect, it serves, intentionally in some cases, to disenfranchise specific groups. And that is, in fact, the case with this present bill, H 5683. And zooming out a little bit to the big picture, what's it doing on the national scale? I would submit to you respectfully that it has rendered American national unity through the process of incentivizing and rewarding extremism at the primary level. It has torn our national unity to shreds. The American flag is metaphorically in tatters today, and part of it is this gerrymandering that has been going on and has been exploited for political advantage for far too long. Solicitor General Wilson made the comment that you have to meet the moment, and we have a moment here to meet. So this body has a choice to meet it for partisan advantage or for the national and the state good, and to create truly fair districts. So, as a citizen, I'm going to implore you, ditch this partisan gerrymander, because that's what it is, and institute a process of proper reform to where we have truly fair maps, and I would suggest that they probably need to be drawn, as has been the case already in several other states that you could probably name. We have an independent commission that does that with proper guidelines and proper parameters. That's what I would like to see as a citizen. So please, please, please ditch this bill and get real about electoral district reform. I thank you.
Brian Holman.
How y'all doing today? My name is Brian, and I'm from the Low Country. I am a candidate, but I'm not coming to you as that today. I'm coming to you as an organizer of the No King movement and a member of Flair USA. My friends call me Prophet. I'm letting you know that if you vote to allow this bill to go to the floor, every Republican candidate who's up for election will be met with the fiercest organizational opposition in South Carolina history. You will not be running against the Democrats alone. You will be fielding candidates against the tenacious veracity of all activist networks in this state working in tandem. The fact that state-right South Carolina politicians cower to the intimidation of a self-proclaimed messiah in D.C. is beyond me. How easy individual liberties are sacrificed for the whims of a madman who envisions himself as all-powerful. It is beyond me. How constitutional conservatives and F-the-law country folks bow so low as to destroy the democratic system to appease the Freedom Ruckus and the Moms for Lucifer and their darling clickbait network is beyond me. That should not, in fact, be accepted by the folks of the great state of South Carolina. We deserve better than what you have offered. In closing, if you choose to let Trump, the Freedom Ruckus, and Moms for Lucifer be the anchor around your necks on a ship that they are sinking, so be it. The people will meet you head on while preserving our freedoms and that of our kids. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Seeing none. Michaela Grant. Ms. Grant, you're recognized.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michaela Grant, and I serve as the president of the University of South Carolina NAACP Collegiate Chapter. I came here today because I believe that what is happening with this proposed redistricting effort is deeply wrong, and I could not stay silent. As a young Black woman in South Carolina, I understand that voting rights and fair representation in the state were never guaranteed to people who look like me. South Carolina has a long history of suppressing Black political power through poll taxes, literacy tests, racial gerrymandering, intimidation, and policies designed to weaken our voices. That history did not disappear, it simply evolved. Too many people in this state fought, marched, and died for our right to vote for us to sit quietly while political maps are manipulated behind closed doors. When lawmakers attempt to redraw congressional districts and change election timelines while voting processes are already underway, it sends a message that political matters more than the voices of the people. In the communities mostly impacted by these decisions are often Black communities, students, and working class voters whose representation is already at risk. As a student leader, I work with young people. Okay, there we go. Sorry. As a student leader, I work with young people every day who are trying to become more civically engaged. We encourage students to register to vote, to educate themselves, and to believe their voices matter. But actions like this create distrust in the democratic process. It makes people feel like the rules simply can be changed when those in power are unhappy with the outcome. This is dangerous. Voters should be able to choose their politicians. Politicians should not choose their voters. Today, I'm not simply asking that this committee considers the impact of these actions. I'm demanding that this committee protects fair representation, rejects efforts to weaken Black political power, and stop placing political interests above the voices of South Carolinians. Young people are watching, Black communities are watching, and history is watching. Thank you so much for your time.
Representative Bamberg.
Ma'am,
So sorry.
I want to take a second and tell you thank you.
Thank you.
You and other young people, I was 26 years old when I came up to this place, and I had these hopes and these dreams and this naiveness that our state could get to a point where we didn't think about race and it wasn't all about party, and I have been disappointed for 13, now 14 years. And you give me hope. So when you leave this place and you go back to USC, that's my alma mater too, you talk to all your students and your young people, and y'all have to be better than we are. And I wanted to stop this and tell you that. And I commend you for having the courage to come and participate in this process. You give me hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to let everybody know I am 21 years old. I probably am the youngest person speaking today, but I will be the loudest person. Thank you, and y'all enjoy your day.
Julie Zimmerman.
Good morning or afternoon. My name is Julie Zimmerman, and I am here as a native South Carolinian who is filled with righteous anger about this last-minute redistricting plan. With only days left in the legislative session, why is this the priority? Oh, I know why. Because the president has summoned you to bend the knee. Heck, he even put out a post for y'all yesterday. Did you read it? I did, and it sounds like he wants y'all to roll over and do whatever he wants. To us watching, this does not look like public service. This looks like a political power grab, and this is not democracy. The director of the South Carolina Election Commission just testified about the confusion, cost, and the countless problems this will likely cause. Imagine if y'all put in the same energy to the problems of South Carolina, our crumbling infrastructure, our needed improvements in our schools, our needed health care and mental health care services across this state, and the people that can't afford the basic necessities like gas, groceries, and health care insurance. These are the problems that South Carolinians are focused on. No one asked for this. Oh, wait, yes, someone did. The President of the United States, and it's sickening. Have you forgotten the purpose of public service? And this is not what public service looks like. You were elected to serve the people of South Carolina, not the president, not a political strategy, and not national pressure campaigns. The people of South Carolina are paying attention, and if you do this, I guarantee you one thing, you will have hell to pay come election time. You can try and cheat the people, but we will remember. We will remember. So how about y'all do the right thing? Why don't y'all stand up and act like you got a backbone? Stand up for a free and fair election. Vote no on this redistricting plan and say no to the President of the United States. Prove yourself to be people of purpose, because courage is contagious. Thank you. Any questions?
Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Letitia Vaughn. Ms. Vaughn, you're recognized.
Thank you. To the members of the South Carolina House Judiciary Committee, my name is Letitia Vaughn. I'm an educator, a member of the Pro-Truth South Carolina Coalition, and a resident of North Charleston, South Carolina. I submit this testimony in strong opposition to the efforts to redraw South Carolina's congressional districts outside of the normal census process, particularly efforts that threaten the integrity of Congressional District 6. I come to this conversation not simply as a political observer, but as someone who has spent my entire career working alongside families, students, educators, and communities across our state, particularly communities that have been historically excluded from equitable access to opportunity and political power. This issue is bigger than the lines on a map. It is about whether South Carolinians will continue to have the ability to organize, advocate, and elect leaders who understand their lived experiences and will fight for their interests. Efforts to redraw this district outside of the traditional census process raise serious concerns about fairness, intent, and the future representative democracy in our state. I am also concerned about the broader constitutional implications connected to legislation such as House Bills 5683 and 5684, and the growing efforts to alter representation structures in ways that weaken protections intended to ensure fair and equitable representation for all citizens. The U.S. Constitution and Voting Rights Acts were established to protect the fundamental democratic principle that every citizen deserves equal protection and equal access to political participation. Any redistricting effort that disproportionately impacts certain populations or dilutes political power of historically marginalized communities raises serious constitutional and moral concerns under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and long-standing voting rights protections. As someone who works directly with young people, I am extremely concerned about the message this sends to the next generation. We tell students that democracy matters. We teach them that voting matters. We encourage civic participation and community engagement. But when district lines appear to change based on political convenience rather than population need, it undermines public trust and reinforces the belief that power, not people, drives decision-making. That erosion of trust is dangerous. I also want to be clear that this process extends beyond congressional politics. The precedent established here could impact state legislative districts, county representation, school board boundaries, and local governance structures throughout South Carolina. Communities are already fighting to be heard and should not have to fight additional barriers to fair representation. From a moral perspective, this issue calls us to consider what kind of democracy are we trying to build. A healthy democracy should expand participation, not dilute it. It should protect communities, not fracture them. It should strengthen trust, not deepen cynicism. At its core, fair representation is a moral issue rooted in dignity, equity, and the belief that every person deserves to have their voice matter equally. South Carolina has an opportunity. You have an opportunity to demonstrate leadership grounded in transparency, fairness, and democratic integrity. Instead of pursuing mid-decade redistricting efforts that many communities, including mine, view as politically motivated, I urge this committee to prioritize public trust, community stability, and equal representation. I respectfully ask this committee to reject the efforts to weaken the voices of communities across our state and instead uphold the constitutional principles of equal protection, fair representation, transparency, and representative democracy for all South Carolinians. Thank you.
Sam Gibbons.
I have returned. I am Sam Gibbons. I'm a resident of Lexington County, and I am running in the Republican primary against Joe Wilson. This time, I'd actually like to open with our state motto, "While I breathe, I hope." Today, it is my hope to wake you up to the gravity of what is being discussed. H 5683 is systematic discrimination based upon political affiliation. Let me tell you what my primary opponent, a career politician, is quoted as saying. I support President Trump's quest for fairness in redistricting, and I have faith in the Republican majorities in the House and the Senate. How can an election be fair when it has a predetermined outcome? I know we like to use the phrases like fairness and merit-based, so let me be clear, partisan gerrymandering is neither of those things. And it is part of the reason that Congress has an approval rating of 10%, but a re-election rate of 95%. Between y'all and him, I feel compelled to once again share a quote from Washington's farewell address. It is important that the habits of habits of thinking in a free country should inspire caution in those entrusted with its administration, to confine themselves within their respective constitutional spheres, avoiding in the exercise of the powers of one department to encroach upon another. The spirit of encroachment tends to consolidate the powers of all the departments in one and thus create a real despotism. In terms you must confront, your capitulation to the president will be of direct injury upon the people you claim to serve. We are a constitutional federal republic. Know that your actions will violate the fundamental principle that the people get to elect their representatives. They will violate the separation of powers, and they will violate your duty to serve all Americans as duly elected representatives. So in this moment, as you deliberate political expediency against your oath, remember Washington's words: the very idea of power and the right of the people to establish government presupposes the duty of every individual to obey the established government. Today is a test of our republic. We were warned about the consequences of party fervor and the inevitable outcomes of seeking security and repose in the absolute power of an individual. To close, while I breathe these words, I hope that you realize and understand that many of today's pleas are not about Republican versus Democrat, but about freedom versus oppression. And I and many others hate the very idea of gerrymandering. We want real competition in our elections. We want our voice to have weight and our vote to matter. You must choose. Will you serve the people of the Constitution or the command of a despot in waiting? I am pleading with you. Be a patriot, not a loyalist. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Chris Hemsel. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the committee members, it's great to be back. For those who have just come to this, let me introduce myself. I'm Chris Hemsel. I'm a retired Army colonel, having spent 30 years on active duty. I'd also like to mention that I'm a resident of Columbia for the last 10 years and a graduate of an all-male private Catholic school. I tell you that because what I'm going to say will get the brothers very upset. But neither the Pope nor the United States Supreme Court are infallible. Gerrymandering was wrong in 1812 when it was used then, and it's wrong today. Partisanship districts, race-driven districts are wrong. Everyone here today knows that partisanship is wrong. It's hard to do the right thing when everyone else is doing it. We've had the president direct redistricting in the middle of a census decade. Just because the president directed it doesn't make it right. Just because Texas did it doesn't make it right. Just because California did it doesn't make it right. Just because Virginia did it doesn't make it right. Just because Florida did it doesn't make it right. Just because Tennessee does it doesn't make it right. Just because Alabama's doing it doesn't make it right. My mother, who passed away this past Christmas, when she was raising me, reminded me when I was growing up, if everyone else is jumping in a pile of crap, she used a different word, are you gonna jump in too? This is a pile of crap, ladies and gentlemen. This was gonna be a short thing, because you already have my written testimony. But this is not a procedural issue. This is a moral test. Power should rest with the people. Leaders should face real competition. The rules should be fair, even when your side loses. It's the American way. So I'd ask that you make a values-based decision, not a political expedient decision. My values come from my parents, the Order of St. Benedict, and the United States Army, and I'd like to share them with you. My values are loyalty, meaning I bear true faith and allegiance to the U.S. Constitution. I swore that oath 5 times and administered it countless times. My duty was to fulfill my obligations. You have an obligation to do the right thing. Respect. Treat others as they should be treated, fostering dignity and trust among your team members. Respect your fellow citizens here in South Carolina. Selfless service. You need to put the welfare of the nation and the state before your own personal ambitions. Honor. Live up to all your values, upholding the highest standards of character. Integrity. Do what's right, legally, morally, consistent, and acting in accordance with principles. And personal courage. Fear. Face fear, danger, and adversity, including both physical and moral courage. This is a moral courage test for you all. I heard the Lieutenant Governor speak this morning, and I'm very saddened. She said, by any means necessary. By any means necessary is a quote that cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled politicians would make. It's a warning coming from the President of the United States. Do not let cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled people direct our state. One other point of information. If you want to know how overseas ballots look on the other side, I was a voting assistance officer while I was deployed during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and as a commander, directed voting assistant officers at company, battalion, and brigade level. So if you want to see what it here looks like on the other side, I can tell you about that too. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Lawrence Moore. Also, welcome back.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate being back in front of y'all today. The subcommittee and the chairman and everybody and all the 124 representatives. My concern today is perception. In this state, what y'all are doing today is looked at as a mistake, lack of leadership. It's also looked at as a rush to deny people the right to vote. And in South Carolina, people should definitely take notice to that. I mean, you know, we've been doing that for a long time. Thought we had got over it, thought we was going somewhere else. But it appears that you want to leave that legacy for your kids again, to go out and beat down another group of people, to try to take advantage of people. Instead, be godly, be godlike. I don't see Jesus Christ doing this and like that.
Yes, sir.
So it's important that y'all stop. Take notice that it's going to cost taxpayers $3 million or more. You know, where y'all doing math now with our money? I don't know. It might go to $1 trillion, you know, we don't know. That's the days we're living in. We can't depend on people to be responsible. We can't depend on people to do the right thing. So what the citizens got to do is going forward, we need to, every one of us, need to talk to our neighbors, need to talk to our relatives, the ones that didn't come down here to this hearing, the ones that's going to be impacted later on when they pay taxes, when they go vote, and they have to go 2 or 3 different times to get this right. It's not necessary. It's not necessary, and it's all put in place for the wrong reasons. It's to take advantage of someone else, to use their livelihood, their power to enrich or empower themselves. The young man that probably proposed this thing might be going to run for senator, run for governor. And I can only assume his motivations to come down here and tell me I can't vote. Either tell my grandkids sometime in the future that they vote don't matter. I grew up back in the 60s understanding that the Constitution was important. I understood that democracy was something that we were driving towards, respecting each other, loving each other, and living with each other. But this committee lacked the leadership. This House of Representatives lacked leadership. Until the voters put real people in place to lead us, we won't have leadership. We'll be astray. And that's what we seem to be doing today. Going back to a day when it's boy this and boy that. Yeah, it is relevant. It's relevant because my vote is a vote for men and women. It's a vote for our community and our leadership. And today we don't have that. Thank you, and I appreciate y'all. And make sure y'all think about this. Do the right thing, because I want to be godlike. Thank you, and I wish y'all would too.
Taylor Simon.
Good morning, members of the committee. Thank you so much for allowing, although I'm not sure, listening to testimony from concerned citizens regarding H5683, many of whom these constituents took off work, had to arrange childcare, drove from across the state to be here for the entire meeting. I urge you to look into the faces of all of these beautiful constituents in this room to whom you represent. Each and every one of you understand the power we have as people who come together. I know you do because you wouldn't use your discomfort at losing your political power to try to lessen the power of our voting rights. You claim this bill is fair, but as a citizen directly affected, I do not see this as fair. I do not feel represented nor empowered. I do not like that my vote will no longer matter. How can anyone say this bill is just when the sponsor stated directly that Republicans have the right to use constitutional power to systemically weaken another party? That is the radical left to maintain control in a supermajority Republican House. But now, I would like to take the rest of my time to address the constituents. I am proud of all of us in this room, all of those watching online, and those who have been using their voices and resources to share information and build the kind of South Carolina we want to live in. I'm angry, but I'm not hopeless. I am losing faith in our leadership, but I can never give up on us, the people. So I would like to quickly wrap up with a poem called Bottom Up. Top down never works. We don't start with a tree. We start with a seed. We start with the earth. We start with the rain. We start with the sun. Together we get the tree. Together we get the forest. Thank you so much for your time.
Wade Fulmer.
Wade Fulmer, I grew up in Aiken. I am a Vietnam War infantry veteran. We fought for Constitution and democracy, not recklessness politics. In '64, I was a teen Republican. Spence for Congress, Goldwater for president, God help us. And of course, Strom, who seemed to be repenting, for Senate. Prior to the country, and I supported a real Kennedy, and a forthright Eisenhower. The '65 Voting Rights Act was and is the right thing and constitutional. Yet now we are suffered by a racist cult Klan, by Gestapo, by a no more Republican Party that I remember. I was a county chairman for Reagan in '80, McCain in 2000. What happened? The R betray us by liars, endless wars, hatred, racism, genocide, greed, and godless supremacy. The R now bow to fascism. Our majority and voter suppression are shredding Constitution, democracy, peace, justice, health care, and livelihoods. You must act to represent the people, no party bowing to fascism. Do no more chaos. No gerrymander, redraw, no push primaries, no more betray God, South Carolina, and America. I and growing are independents, are nonpartisans, are voters who will not tolerate any more dictafascism, Epstein Company, nor hypocrisy party of RJ. We, the voters, are Americans. Be one with us, not bowed to Trump fascism. Oppose these chaos bills. Thank you.
Michael Grantham.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Michael Grantham. I'm from from Charleston, live in Greenville. I didn't come here today with planning on agreeing with anything Alan Wilson said, but here we are. We are expected to meet moments. We don't get to choose them. We're made up of bone and sinew and water and memories. And I'm here because we owe a debt. Everybody in this room owes a debt, many debts that we'll never be able to pay. But the one that comes to mind right now, the one that I thought about this morning on my drive down from Greenville, out on the water years before he served in a room like this, Robert Smalls conjured more courage than probably exists in this room, but maybe we can change that today. When he seized the planter, brought his friends and his family and their families to freedom, and then came back and broke a Confederate blockade. That was courage. Years later, when he served in a room like this, September 10th of 1895, he was dealing with another Supreme Court decision that was just as horrible. And he said, one day, or one morning, you'll wake up to find that the sinew of this country and the bone of this country is gone. When I look at what's happening to the Constitution, when I look at what's happening to this country, I feel like we are losing the bone and sinew of this nation. We are expected to meet the moment, and I hope that everybody in this room can find courage to do the right thing. Thank you.
Josh Dunn.
Hey, everybody. I see I have the green light. Thank you all for hearing my testimony today. There was a lot of talk of being respectful today. I do want to make a distinction between politeness and respect. I do think that out of respect, we should be telling the truth. We should be honest about what is happening. That is, when I respect someone, I tell them how I feel, and if it upsets them, we can talk about that later, but that's part of respect for me, not just politeness. So out of that, I do want to thank Representative Rankin for having the courage to attend the first half of this hearing when all of his friends were here to congratulate him. I would like to thank Pam Evitt for taking the time out of attacking black college students to come and actually try to destroy the black vote. So I know she has a busy schedule going around the state. She did say that she's been talking to a lot of constituents who are in favor of this map, so I would just like to honor and recognize them today. So all the constituents here who are in support of this map, will you please stand up behind me? Will the constituents who are against this map stand up? Please, if you can stand, please stand up. Against this map? Thank you. It's clear to me, standing up here today, that no amount of persuasion is going to move this needle. I've heard so many good arguments from fiscal responsibility to morality, but I know how this vote is going to go. You're going to do what you're going to do, and the only reason that you're going to do it is because you have the raw power to do it, and I respect that. Y'all have managed to gain the raw power to push this forward. I ask if that's the state that you want South Carolina to be, the one where raw power alone is what rules, because that will boomerang, I promise you. Because times are changing. The grip that the Republican Party has on the people of South Carolina, whatever you want to say of maps, is changing. If you are going to kill democracy in the state, my only request is that you go all the way. You're going to have to crush our democratic movement into dust, because if you don't, when the pressure comes down, the movement rises up, and that is what is happening here today. I'm a little emotional. This is my state. Richland County, Columbia, you're destroying my voting power and the voting power of my family, the voting power of my peers. But we will reconstruct democracy in this state. And we will teach our children what happened here. You will be in the history books. You might not like the caption beside it, but you will be in the history books for the moves that you make today. One last historical note that I want to make, because I do believe that knowing our history is important. We have an image passed down to us of the Ku Klux Klan as being, uneducated hicks and bedrooms. They were lawmakers. They were business owners. They were powerful people in this state. Take what you will of that. I do believe respect is important. I do believe telling the truth is important. So that is why I'm up here today. Thank you all. I'm happy to take any questions, but I don't imagine there will be any. So,
Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Walter Clyburn Reed. Not here. All right, I understand from Representative Wetmore, Mr. Clyburn Reed may not be with us. All right, members of the subcommittee, that concludes our public testimony time. The matter before us is House Bill 5683. Seeing no questions or comments, roll call is required and ordered.
Representative Jordan?
Aye.
Representative Bamberg?
No.
Representative Mitchell? Representative Newton?
Aye.
Representative Wetmore?
No.
The bill receives a favorable as amended report with 3 in favor and 2 against.
All right, having accomplished the agenda for today, Chairman Newton, I'll defer to you if you want to tell us about full judiciary.
It's 11:30. We can go 10 minutes.
Do we want to
Or you can say it.
adjourn and trade seats?
How quickly can we get the rest of the members of judiciary? Are they around at least to lay out the plan for the afternoon and the schedule? All right, we're adjourned from this one.
All right, we're hereby adjourned with the idea of reconvening full judiciary in the next little bit. Thank you.